Hello and welcome to the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm your host, Amy Rabel. It has been a huge day here in the Art of Decluttering land. I was up bright and early this morning doing the Today Show in Australia. That was great on the morning TV shows, and I have already had a client book in as a result of seeing that and feeling like there was hope, which is exactly what I want to portray whenever I'm speaking to you, whenever I'm recording a podcast, sending something through to YouTube. I want you to know that there's hope where there is clutter. And so in areas where you're perhaps feeling overwhelmed, there is a way out. Your clutter does not have to be a life sentence. And kind of in that vein today, I want to talk about malignant clutter and benign clutter. And what really triggered me to want to record this episode is I was watching Channel 9's Space Invaders a couple of weeks ago, and Peter Walsh, who is a fantastic professional organizer, talks about malignant clutter in the sense that it's evasive and it spreads and it really impacts the way that you live in your home. And I thought, Peter, you've given me an idea. I want to spend a whole episode talking about the difference between benign clutter and malignant clutter and the impact that this malignant clutter has on your very being, on the way you live, on the way that your household runs, and the importance that it is to get on top of malignant clutter. There are times, and there will be times in your life when you've got benign clutter and it's not the end of the world. You don't need to rush out and deal with it immediately. But when you've got malignant clutter, that is an instance where it's really important to get some support, make some changes so that it doesn't take over. So I've got a few notes that I want to go through. And the idea is malignant clutter doesn't just kind of sit in the background, doesn't just mind its own business, but it invades your home, your peace, your mindset, your thinking, your relationships. It invades all these spaces. And so it goes from just being stuff to actually overtaking areas that it was never invited into. So the concept is benign clutter is stuff that is temporary. It might even be contained. It's part of everyday life. So as an example, I had a little bit of benign clutter this morning. So I had a cameraman come and he did lighting and sound and camera. He does all the things. It was amazing. Good job, Paul. And what there was in my house was a little bit of benign clutter because I had some props. So I had gone around and got some different things so that I could use them as part of the conversation I was having with the hosts. And in order to tidy our house, some things, simple things like things you would always have in your home, like a dish rack and a sponge and things like that, I wanted to remove off the sink so it was a clear surface. And so they went into the laundry. Now, I created a little bit of benign clutter. They were things that were out of place, not where they should have been. And there was a little section of it in the laundry of things we had put away, just like our green waste bin didn't need to be on the bench while we were recording a segment for the show. And so this benign clutter was there. Yes, it was clutter. Was it making an impact on anything? Absolutely not. In fact, it was actually serving a purpose. And then once this cameraman left and we reset the house, all that stuff came back. It was temporary. It didn't impact on anything. And it was just part of everyday life. Another example of benign clutter is the clutter that you get in the after school rush if you've got kids. So it might be they come home, shoes come off, a backpack is put down, lunch boxes go in the sink, the bench might have some notices, or there might be a ball that's come in. You've just got life is happening in the space. And if that clutter at the end of the day, you say to the kids, okay, great, grab those school bags, grab your readers, grab your lunch boxes, put them where they belong. And there is a place where they can be put away and the paperwork goes away and the bench is all of a sudden clear. And by the time you go to bed, for the most part, things are tidied up. That clutter period after school is benign clutter. It's life. It's how you live in a home. You can't live in a display home. Nobody wants to live in a display home. And so this benign clutter just comes and it goes, but it doesn't have any kind of insidious implication on the way that you live or the way that you feel. Now, in contrast to that, malignant clutter really does impact you. So it might impact your relationships. I was talking to a client just today who said they don't invite people over to their home anymore because they're too embarrassed about the clutter. And so this clutter has gone from just stuff to actually creating a barrier in their relationships and in their socialization and in their engagement with their community. And so this malignant clutter might also mean that you don't go out as often as you'd like to because either you feel guilty, like I should stay home and I should deal with this clutter, or the clutter's significant. It actually means that you can't find your shoes. It takes you a long time to get ready. Like even having breakfast in the morning might take 45 minutes. You got to find the cereal, find a clean bowl. Like all of the things that are part of everyday life might actually be taking longer because the clutter has now started to impede on other areas. It's not just a few things out of place because that's life, but what you do have is stuff that is now creeping. It might be no longer contained clutter. So instead of being in a drawer, you might have a junk drawer. I don't have a junk drawer. I don't advise you have junk drawers. But for the sake of this example, if you've got one, if that stuff has started to creep and now you also have like a couple of doom bags on the ground, or maybe it started to climb up onto the bench, or the fruit bowl no longer has fruit, it just has random bits of things that you don't know what to do with, the glasses and keys and a golf ball. And this is kind of that malignant clutter that is taking over spaces. It's growing and it's spreading. Children can often start with benign clutter and then in their own environments, it moves to malignant. And so sometimes what I see is if benign clutter is left or added to or something shifts, it can often come malignant. What that might look like is you do have the after school activities bags that just get thrown up against the wall at the end of the night. Maybe the kids have had swimming lessons. So there's a couple of bags. But what might happen is a wet towel is left in there and all of a sudden it starts to go moldy. And then the bags are going a bit moldy and then you feel overwhelmed by it. And so you throw other stuff on the pile and this pile just seems to start and grow and it creates a life of its own. And we talk about clutter attracts clutter and flat surfaces are magnetic. So you can imagine how putting something down on a flat surface quickly can go from benign, I can clean that up, it's fine, I know where it goes, to malignant where it's just spread and it's all of a sudden everywhere. There's some great reels that I've seen on Instagram where someone clears off a kitchen table, someone puts down one glass, turns back around, and the kitchen table is full of clutter again. It's like clutter, putting one thing down gives permission for all the other things. And so what I want you to be able to do is identify what type of clutter you have. Like it's a really important part of the process is this diagnostic of like, is this malignant or not? Because if it is malignant, we want to do something about it. And you may not feel equipped to do something about it on your own. So it might be that you want to bring in professionals. It might be that you want to talk to other people and say, like, this is where I'm stuck, or this is the implication it's having. You might have a psychologist. It's a great way to have a conversation about the impact of the state of your home on all your other areas, on your employment, on your relationships, on your finances. Because malignant clutter doesn't just stay about the stuff. Malignant clutter might become a real impact on your finances. So it might be that you start ordering things on Amazon or ordering things online and they get delivered and you're overwhelmed and so you don't unpack them. But you still want the high, you still want that dopamine hit of doing the purchase. And so what you're doing is you're then adding and you end up with more and more packages. We see this all the time with clients and it just grows and grows and grows. So the clutter itself is growing, but it's impacting on your finances or it's impacting on your relationship. There's lots of arguments around things like that. So when clutter is impacting on other areas, it's a really, really good indicator that maybe it has moved to malignancy. And if it's impacting on your well-being and your mental health, it's a great way to kind of think, am I dreading this? Is the clutter in my home actually living in my mind as well? It's actually gone from the stuff and it's now a mindset or it's now stress or anxiety or overwhelm or rumination or, you've got all these compulsions, like all that stuff means that your clutter has moved from innocence to, I was going to say disastrous. Is it that severe? Sometimes it is. Maybe just sometimes it's really a barrier that you need to overcome. And maybe sometimes it really does become disastrous because that's what malignancy does is it festers. So if you're finding that you're kind of not sure, how do I do this diagnostic? Some of the things you might want to think about is that spread that I talked about. So clutter has moved from where you intended it to be and it has kind of spread into different spaces. Maybe you're feeling just that deep sense of dread. Maybe you don't want to be at home. Clients tell me often, I go out during the day because I don't want to be at home. I feel so uncomfortable with my stuff. And maybe it's starting to affect your function. Maybe you're no longer using particular rooms. Literally an hour ago, I got off the phone to a lady who said she hadn't used the second story of her home in 2 years, actually hadn't walked up the stairs to it. And that's, again, not an uncommon experience, as there might be a spare room that you just don't go into, or a cupboard that you don't open, or a shelf that you don't look at, or a shed that you don't go into, or part of the garage that is just like out of mind. I don't want to deal with it. You feel that dread and overwhelm. And so if it has started to affect your function, that's a really great way to know. If you no longer sit on the couch to relax with your partner at the end of the day because there's just too much washing on it, or there's kids' toys everywhere, or it's just chaos, your clutter is malignant. If at nighttime you climb over things to get into bed, or you can't vacuum the floors because there's just stuff everywhere, there's boxes and toys and doom boxes and piles of clothes, your clutter is malignant. And I want to also give you hope. Malignant clutter can be managed. And the reason that it can be managed is because I have seen it time and time and time and time and time again, that someone reaches out and says, my clutter is impacting more than just the space that it's taking up, and I want to do something about it. And so the things that you can do about it is identify, as we talked about, like, where is this malignant clutter living? And then you might try and tackle just a little bit. So could I reduce it so that it's in a contained space? Okay, at the moment the clutter's spread out down the wall of our hallway, is there a box that I can get and just contain it? And once it's contained, yes, you still need to go through it, but containing the clutter when it's become malignant is actually really important. It might be that instead of allowing paperwork to overflow and sit on top of a filing cabinet, you put it in, rather than allowing the kitchen dishes to just sit on top of the lunch boxes or the appliances to sit on the bench. You go, okay, I'm going to put them away into the cupboard. So finding homes for things is a part of managing malignant clutter. It's also about figuring out, like, what is that additional impact? Is the impact in my mind? Is the impact in, like, my soul, where I just feel like this is so uncomfortable? This is not how I want to live. This is not aligning with my values. Is it impacting your relationships? Do your kids no longer invite friends home from school because the clutter has the impact of that malignant clutter is right through to your children? And if you're experiencing that and you're wondering, do the kids haven't invited anyone home? Again, you're not alone. It's a common experience, but it doesn't have to stay that way. So you can tackle little areas. You can go back over all the hundreds and hundreds of podcast episodes that I've got and go, like, well, what do I do? Where do I start? It might be a matter of putting a timer on for 10 minutes and just dealing with one area. And so what you want to do, if you're living in a home where you've got malignant clutter everywhere, which is then impacting your values and who you understand yourself to be and all of these areas, is you might not be aiming for minimalism, right? You might just want to aim for benign clutter, where it's like, yep, the house gets a bit messy, but at the end of the day, I can pack it up. I know where things go. And that's what you're aiming for. And so have a think about, like, how do I, instead of going for perfection, how do you just have progress in that? Is it a matter of reaching out to a professional organizer? If you're in Melbourne, Australia, we would love to help you in person. I do virtual sessions all over the world, but reaching out to someone and saying, I actually need a little bit of help because there's so many malignant areas that I just don't know where to start. And so it might be finding storage solutions for things. It might be doing a deep declutter and letting go of things that you just don't need anymore. All of these things are really important. So we've talked about reversing it. We've talked about the hope that there is. And so the takeaway today, really, I think the important thing is to recognize if you do or don't have malignant clutter in your home. Now, if you don't, breathe a sigh of relief and think, okay, when things get messy, when things get untidy, this is benign. It's fine. I know how to pack it up. I don't know how to tidy. And that's where I want all of you to be. I want even those of you who feel overwhelmed and are like, oh my goodness, it is impacting on all areas. I want you to be at the place where you live in your home, you enjoy it, you walk in, you feel refreshed, you feel like you've got this sense of belonging, sense of home. I think all of that is really important, but malignant clutter will 100% hold you back from experiencing all those things. So please go, walk around, have that sense of reflection for yourself. Where is my clutter? Is it malignant? And if it is, what steps are you going to take in order to manage it? Oh, that was a big one today. It's the end of a huge day. If you want to see the segment that I did on TV this morning, jump over into my Facebook group, the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook. It is in there. You can have a watch and you can get some tips from that as well. So until next week, enjoy the freedom.